3 viruses. One of them has been all over the news this month with a frightening death rate that sounds like something out of a film. The other 2 are so familiar that most people barely think about them anymore. And here is the thing almost nobody tells you. The one that frightens you the most is probably not the one most likely to harm you. If you're over 60, this matters more than almost anything else you'll hear about your health this year. Because the amount of worry you spend on a threat should match the actual size of that threat. And right now, for most people, those 2 things are badly out of balance. Before we go further, please don't panic about any of this. By the end of these next 15 minutes, you're going to understand exactly where to put your attention and exactly where you can let your shoulders drop. My name is Marcus Reeve. Before we go any further, please allow me a moment for something important. I am not a medical professional of this topics. I am a careful reader who brings you what mainstream medical research and trusted public health bodies have actually said, and that's all this channel has ever claimed to be. This video is for educational purposes only and is not in any way a substitute for medical advice. The information you'll hear today is drawn from the World Health Organization, the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control, and major medical institutions, as published through May 2026. But science evolves. Individual bodies differ, and no video on the internet can know what your own doctor knows about you. If you have a chronic lung condition, a heart condition, a weakened immune system, or any ongoing health concern, please speak to your physician about your personal risk. So let's begin. If you've been with me through the last couple of videos, you'll remember we've spent some time on Hantavirus, what it is, how it spreads, the true story of that cruise ship, and the misinformation that grew up around it. Many of you wrote to me afterward with a question I hadn't fully answered. And it was such a good question that I decided it deserved a video of its own. The question was this: Marcus, you've told me not to panic about hantavirus. But there are so many things to worry about now. Hantavirus, COVID, the flu, all of it. How do I know which one actually deserves my attention? That, my friend, is exactly the right question. And it's the question I want to answer in this video, not by telling you to fear everything and not by telling you to fear nothing, but by putting these 3 viruses side by side. Honestly, the way you'd compare 3 things before making any other important decision in your life. We're going to look at 4 things for each virus: how likely you are to catch it, how it spreads, how dangerous it is if you do catch it, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it. Because a danger you can prevent is a very different thing from a danger you cannot. By the end, I think you'll feel something that's become rare in conversations about health these days: clarity, and maybe even a little peace. Settle in. Let's compare. Let's start with the thing that has everyone talking, because we need to clear it up before anything else makes sense. You've probably heard that hantavirus has a death rate of around 35 to 40%. And that number is, broadly speaking, accurate. The form of hantavirus found in the America's hantavirus pulmonary syndrome has killed roughly 35% of the people known to have caught it in the United States over recent decades. That is a genuinely frightening figure. It is far higher than COVID. It is far, far higher than the flu. So why on earth am I about to tell you that hantavirus is probably the least of your 3 worries? Because a death rate is only half of a piece of information. The other half is how likely you are to catch it in the first place. And this is the part that the scary headlines almost always leave out. Let me give you an example that has nothing to do with viruses. Imagine two activities. One of them kills 35% of the people who do it, but almost nobody ever does it. The other kills less than 1% of the people who do it, but millions of people do it every single year. Which one causes more deaths? The second one, by an enormous margin. The rare but deadly thing harms very few people because so few people are ever exposed to it. The common but milder thing harms far more because it touches so many lives. That is the single most important idea in this entire video. Risk is not just how bad something is. Risk is how bad it is, multiplied by how likely it is to happen to you. Keep that in your mind as we go through all three. It will change how you see everything. So let's apply that to hantavirus. How likely are you to catch it? For the overwhelming majority of people, extremely unlikely. Hantavirus does not spread easily from person to person. The strain on that cruise ship, the Andes virus, is the only known hantavirus that can pass between humans at all, and even then, only through close, prolonged, sustained contact, which is exactly why it appeared on a closed ship and not in the wider world. The far more common way people catch hantavirus is by breathing in dust contaminated with the droppings, urine, or saliva of infected wild rodents, usually while cleaning out an enclosed space like a cabin, a shed, a barn, or a garage that mice have gotten into. How dangerous is it if you catch it? Genuinely serious. That 35% figure is real, and I won't soften it. It can move quickly from flu-like symptoms to severe fluid buildup in the lungs. But here is the part that should bring your shoulders down. Hantavirus is one of the most preventable serious illnesses there is. It cannot be caught from a crowd, a handshake, a church service, or a supermarket. It comes, almost always, from one specific situation, disturbing rodent-contaminated dust in an enclosed space. And that situation is entirely avoidable with knowledge you now have. Ventilate before you clean. Wet down dust rather than sweeping it into the air. Wear gloves and a mask. Don't stir up dry droppings. That's it. That's the prevention. We covered it in detail in the earlier video, and I'll keep saying it because it works. So hantavirus is rare, serious, and almost entirely within your power to prevent. Hold that thought, and let's turn to a virus that behaves in almost the opposite way. COVID is, in a sense, hantavirus's mirror image. How likely are you to catch it? Quite likely over time. COVID spreads easily from person to person, through the air, through close contact, through ordinary daily life. Unlike hantavirus, it does not need a rare and specific situation. It needs only other people. And it spreads from people who may not yet know they're sick. How dangerous is it if you catch it? For most people, far milder than hantavirus. The large majority of COVID infections are mild. A smaller portion becomes severe, and a smaller portion still become critical. The overall death rate is a small fraction of hantaviruses. We're talking well under 1% for most populations now, especially with the immunity most people have built up. But, and this is the crucial but for our audience today, COVID's danger is not evenly spread. It concentrates heavily in older adults and in people with chronic heart, lung, or immune conditions. For a healthy 30-year-old, COVID today is often a bad few days. For someone over 60, particularly over 70, particularly with other health conditions, it remains a genuine threat, not because the average case is severe, but because your group sits at the higher end of the risk. So here's the comparison that matters. Hantavirus has a much higher death rate per case, but you are very unlikely to ever encounter it. COVID has a much lower death rate per case, but you are far more likely to catch it, possibly more than once. When you multiply danger by likelihood, remember our key idea: COVID poses a meaningfully larger real-world threat to most people over 60 than hantavirus does. Not because it's scarier on paper, because it's so much more likely to actually reach you. And here is the good news, the part often overlooked by alarmist headlines. COVID is also something you can act on. There are vaccines, updated regularly, that are specifically recommended for older adults and that substantially reduce the risk of severe illness and death. There are antiviral treatments that work best when started early. There is the simple, powerful habit of testing when you feel unwell and talking to your doctor quickly. None of that exists for hantavirus. For COVID, you have tools, real ones. I want to pause on one thing here because I hear it often from viewers your age. Some of you have told me you feel done with COVID, tired of thinking about it, tired of the years it took from us, ready to put it behind you entirely. I understand that feeling completely, and I share a great deal of it, but I gently ask you to separate two things: being done with the fear and being done with the precautions. You are absolutely entitled to be done with the fear. The endless anxiety served its time and has long outstayed its welcome. But the simple, quiet precautions: an updated vaccine when your doctor recommends it, a test when you feel unwell, a quick call early rather than a long wait, those aren't fear. Those are just sensible maintenance, like checking the smoke alarm. You can let go of the dread and keep the good habits. In fact, that's exactly the balance I'd wish for you. And now we come to the virus that almost nobody is afraid of, and that quietly does more harm to people over 60 year after year than the other two combined in most years: the flu. How likely are you to catch it? Very. Influenza sweeps through the population every single winter. In any given season, it infects a substantial share of people. It is, by a wide margin, the most likely of these three viruses to reach you. How dangerous is it if you catch it? Here is where we underestimate it terribly. For a healthy young adult, the flu is a miserable week. For someone over 65, the flu is one of the leading infectious causes of hospitalization and death. Every year, not in a pandemic, not in a crisis, just every ordinary winter. The flu's death rate per case is low, much lower than hantavirus, but because it infects so many millions of people, and because it concentrates its harm in older adults, the actual number of older people it harms each year is enormous. The flu doesn't frighten us because it's familiar. We've all had it, we've all recovered, and that familiarity quietly hides the fact that for the over 60 group, it is statistically one of the most dangerous of the three viruses we're discussing, precisely because it is so common and so underestimated. But once again, and I hope you're seeing the pattern now, the flu is something you can act on powerfully. The annual flu vaccine, particularly the higher dose versions designed specifically for older adults, meaningfully reduces hospitalization and death in exactly our age group. Study after study confirms it. It is, frankly, one of the best evidence protective actions available to anyone over 60. And every year, far too many people skip it because they're busy worrying about something rarer and scarier in the headlines. Let me say a word about those higher dose vaccines, because many people over 65 don't know they exist. As we age, our immune systems respond a little less vigorously to a standard vaccine. It's a normal part of getting older. To address exactly this, there are flu vaccines formulated specifically for older adults, designed to provoke a stronger protective response than the standard version. If you are over 65, it's worth asking your doctor or pharmacist a single simple question this autumn. Is there a flu vaccine made specifically for my age group that you'd recommend for me? It costs you nothing to ask, and the answer may give you meaningfully better protection through the winter. This is the kind of small, specific, practical step that quietly does far more for your real safety than any amount of worrying about a virus on a distant ship. So let me put all three in front of you the way I'd lay 3 documents on a table. If you rank these viruses purely by how deadly they are per case, the order would be Hantavirus first, by a long way, then COVID, then the flu. But that's the wrong ranking for making decisions, because it ignores likelihood. If you rank them instead by how much real-world threat they pose to a typical person over 60 danger, multiplied by likelihood, the order very nearly flips. For most people in our age group, the flu and COVID pose a far larger genuine threat than hantavirus, simply because you are so much more likely to encounter them. That doesn't mean hantavirus is nothing. It means hantavirus is a rare risk you prevent through how you clean and where you're careful, while COVID and the flu are common risks you reduce through vaccination, early treatment, and quick attention when you feel unwell. And notice something beautiful about all 3. Every single one of them is something you have real power over. Hantavirus, through careful cleaning. COVID, through vaccines and antivirals. The flu, through that annual shot. None of these 3 viruses is a helpless situation. Not one. The danger is never knowing where to direct your energy. And now you do. There's one more practical thing I want to give you tonight, because it can genuinely matter. All 3 of these viruses can start in almost the same way. Fever, body aches, fatigue, a headache. In the first day or 2, hantavirus, COVID, and the flu can be very difficult to tell apart even for doctors. This is exactly why hantavirus is sometimes missed early. It gets mistaken for the flu, and the person comes back later much sicker. So how do you at home know what to do? You don't try to diagnose yourself. That's not your job, and it's not mine. What you do is give your doctor the one piece of information that machines and tests can't supply: context. If you've had a fever and body aches, and you also recently cleaned out a shed, a cabin, a garage, or anywhere mice may have been, tell your doctor that specifically. Say the sentence we've used before: I was recently somewhere rodents may have been present. Could this be hantavirus? If instead you've been around someone who tested positive for COVID, say that. If it's the middle of flu season and your spouse just had it, say that too. The context you provide is often what points a doctor toward the right test at the right time. That single piece of information can change everything. So let me bring it all together for you. 3 viruses. Hantavirus, the rare and frightening one, with a high death rate, but a very low chance of ever reaching you, and almost completely preventable through how you clean. COVID, far milder per case, but far more likely to find you, and concentrated in exactly our age group, but met with vaccines, antivirals, and early treatment. And the flu, the old familiar one we underestimate every winter, statistically one of the most dangerous to people over 60, precisely because it's so common and reduced powerfully by a yearly shot that too many people skip. The threats that capture headlines are rarely the ones most likely to harm you. Instead, focus on the common, familiar, and preventable risks. This isn't a cause for fear, but for focused action. So if you take one practical thing from tonight, let it be this. Don't lie awake worrying about the cruise ship virus. Instead, ask yourself two simple questions. Am I up to date on the vaccines my doctor recommends for someone my age? And do I know how to clean a dusty, closed-up space safely if I ever need to? If you can answer yes to both, you have addressed the great majority of your real, actual risk from all three of these viruses, and you can let the rest of the worry go. That's the whole point of this channel, really, not to frighten you, but to help you put your worry where it belongs, and to give you back the peace that comes from understanding. If this video helped bring some clarity, please leave a comment and tell me which of the three surprised you most. And share it with anyone over 60 in your life who's been losing sleep over the wrong thing. Take care of yourself. Talk to your own doctor about which vaccines are right for you, because they know you in a way no video ever could. And remember, clarity is its own kind of medicine. See you in the next video.